another perfect day under the dome at BC Place. Outside, it is less than perfect. The weather and this matchup should bring more than 30,000 inside. October, Thanksgiving, Lions and Stamps on the coast. That means football. And now with part one of this football feast, here's Don and James.
Thanks again, Steve. Well, over the years since BC Place Stadium was opened in 1983, visiting teams have had problems winning here, but not the Stampeders. They have an 11-4-1 record. But Dave Ritchie is still looking for his first head coaching win over Wally Buono, despite the fact that he scored the major upset last year in the playoffs, winning the Western Final at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Ritchie is 0-5 against Wally Buono's Calgary Stampeders since he took over as head coach of the BC Lions in 1993. Thomas is waiting for the kickoff. He takes the ball at the 15-yard line. He does have a 98-yard kickoff return this season. He brings the ball back to the 42. He was brought down there by Jackie Kellogg. That was a 29-yard run back by Eddie Thomas, and the BC Lions have pretty good field position for their opening series under the direction of Danny McManus. McManus this afternoon is looking to become a 10,000-yard career passer in the CFL. This year he has thrown for 3,962 yards, but he would like to see those two figures at the bottom reversed. He's throwing more interceptions than he has touchdowns. Last week, he had 2 touchdown passes against the Edmonton Eskimos. First and 10, McManus fakes inside, looks over the middle, incomplete. Trevathan and Murphy were in the general vicinity of where that ball went, and it was knocked down by Dondre Owens. Mick Stevenson is playing his 207th career game today for the BC Lions along the offensive line. He's the veteran up front. Corey Philpott is lined up at the tailback position. He's been bothered by a hamstring injury, and you may see the BC Lions this afternoon try to spread things out a little more, and you might even see Philpott line up in a slot back position. On second down, the pass is complete for a first down. Over the middle and into the hands of Robert Gordon. Marvin Coleman was there to make the tackle, but they're ruling no catch. They're ruling that he did not catch the ball. It looked as though he had it as he came up with the football in front of Coleman. Let's take another look.
You get a good look at Gordon running the slant route, but as he came down, he laid the ball on the turf. Very questionable whether the turf can actually cause a fumble, but the officials ruled it incomplete.
Marvin Coleman is the lone man back for this third down punt by Lou Pasaglia. The all-time leading scorer in the Canadian Football League. Coleman takes the ball at the 30-yard line. And Coleman brings it back to the 44, stopped there by Brian Forbes. Well, many people thought that when Doug Flutie went down, the Calgary Stampeders would have difficulties, but under the direction of Jeff Garcia, they have continued to roll along, and he has directed them to victories in every game he has started. And look at those numbers: 20 touchdown passes and just 4 interceptions. He ran for better than 100 yards last week against Toronto, but he hopes this afternoon that he won't be forced to pull the ball down and run as much. First pass of the game is incomplete. It was intended for Alan Pitts. Tyrone Chapman was applying some pressure, and Garcia had to get rid of the ball in a hurry. Bruce Beaton, who has taken over for the injured Bruce Covington, has improved over the last few weeks playing the left tackle position. He's been a more physical tackle. Alan Pitts hoping to have a 4th season of 100 or more catches. He needs 6 coming into this game. He's number 3 among CFL receivers. Donald Narcisse is now the leader with 97. There's Pitts with his 95th. And that's a first down as Kelly Sims made the tackle.
You have to be able to give some inside help when you're playing Pitts and Sapunjas. That time, Europe came with a safety blitz. There was no support in the middle. Pitts set down. Garcia with a nice strike to get the drive moving.
So it will be 1st and 10 Calgary. The ball is at the 49 of the BC Lions. In their previous meeting, July the 21st at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, the Stampeders won by a score of 46-24. Handoff to Tony Stewart, and Stewart loses the football, but it rolls out of bounds as Tyrone Chapman came over to make the tackle. And they're ruling that a BC player was the last to touch it as it went out of bounds. Wally Buono is unhappy with the call.
He punched it out.
What Wally is complaining about, he thought that Stewart was the last to touch, but as you see it, Stewart gets to the outside. Watch the head that comes in and is put on the football by Sims. Sims pushed the ball out, but it went off of Stewart's thigh. Bono had a valid complaint on the play.
Well, Sims was able to knock the ball away from Stewart, and the BC Lions take over 1st and 10. They are at their own 41-yard line. The toss goes to Corey Philpott. He cuts back inside, but there is no running room. The Stampeders have been particularly tough this year against the rush. Even though Philpott has run for 13 touchdowns, the Stampeders as a team have given up just 3 rushing touchdowns. Gonzalo Floyd continues to play at a defensive tackle position. They feel that he is more active than his predecessor, Kenny Walker. Alondra Johnson has moved into the #1 position among Stampeder defensive players in points accumulated through every game during the season. And Dondre Owens is playing a halfback position, replacing the injured Kenton Leonard. Sideline pattern and no catch. Marvin Coleman defending against Trevathan, who was out of bounds.
Well, the coverage in the back end by Calgary, when you look at the corners, Jordan and Coleman, a lot of teams have tried to test them this season, both first-year starters for Calgary in the secondary, and they've done a fine job as you see the good coverage on Trevathan on that play.
Trevathan came down with the football, but he had already stepped outside the boundaries. Marvin Coleman is the lone man back for this 3rd down punt by Lou Pasaglia. And something that Coach Dave Ritchie said yesterday when we talked with him, James, is that he didn't want his team always playing on a short field, and the Stampeders on their first possession had ideal field position, and Coleman will give them great field position again, taking the ball up to the 47 before being stopped there by Henry Newby. No score in the football game here at BC Place Stadium, and we have played 3 minutes.
Edmonton.
Henry Newby is playing a linebacking position.
Last time here, Henry Newby sang the national anthem the last home game for BC.
And Kelly Sims has moved into a halfback position, replacing Enos Jackson. Right now on 2nd down, the Lions going with 6 defensive backs. Garcia pulls it down and is going to try and run for a 1st down, and he does get it. We talked with Wally Buono about Garcia running so much last week against Toronto. He said, I don't mind him running. He said, but I want him to be smart about taking hits.
Well, this time he does go down, but one of the things with Jeff now, earlier when he came in at quarterback, he was more willing to sit in and find his 2nd and 3rd receiver in the pattern. Now he's gotten those happy feet. After 5 or 6 games, he started to run the ball more. He's going to have to be more patient and let the offensive patterns develop.
13 yards in that Rambo for a 1st down at the 52-yard line. All sorts of motion at the line of scrimmage. Garcia never got a chance to set up in the pocket. Garcia has a lot of family and friends in attendance at BC Place Stadium for this game. He had to buy 13 tickets. His mom and dad came up from San Jose. He said, I don't mind springing for the tickets because they get an opportunity to watch me play here at BC Place Stadium.
Offside, BC, number 74, 5-yard penalty, still 1st down.
That's a very tough call for BC to take right there, because Rocco Romano, the right offensive tackle, had clearly pulled out of his stance. And once an offensive lineman comes out of that stance, you're free to run across when you're on the defensive line. That's a tough call for the Lions.
Out of the shotgun, 1st and 5. The pass intended out into the flat for Stewart. It's incomplete. Chapman was out defending against him. Stewart has improved his rushing totals since Jeff Garcia took over at quarterback. one of the reasons perhaps for that is that all the plays now are being called by offensive coordinator John Hufnagel. When Flutie was directing the offense, when they went to that hurry-up offense, many times he was on his own and preferred the passing game.
Well, Doug often operated out of the shotgun, where Jeff is more apt to go underneath the center, and when you can do that, you have an opportunity to get the ball back to your running back, and that's what got Stewart more involved in the offense.
2nd and 5. Europe coming on a blitz. He put Garcia on his back, but the Calgary quarterback was able to get rid of it just in time. But the pass falls short of the intended target, so the Stampeders will have to send out their kicking team.
Well, this is one of the things that BC felt they were going to have to do this afternoon is blitz. You're going to get Europe. He's going to come from in this area on the outside and come across, and he doesn't give Garcia a chance. And this is what they do. They overload on one side. Garcia's in the pocket, and the pressure is consistent. If you do that, and he has the happy feet this afternoon, it can cause a lot of problems for the Calgary offense.
McLennan and Thomas are back for this 3rd down punt by Martino. He stands at his own 50-yard line. It bounces into the end zone. McLennan seemed to be a little unsure as to whether or not he was going to try and catch it. And it bounced beside him and in front of Thomas and through the end zone for a single point with 7:56 remaining in the opening quarter. Danny McManus in some games this year has put up some pretty good numbers, including last week against Edmonton. But James, for about the last half-dozen games, he has been playing with a very sore hand. He had his throwing hand stepped on, and it has caused him problems. There are times when he really can't feel the ball on the exchange from center.
Well, he's had the swelling in the hand, and also he's had the sore knee. He had his knee twisted 2 weeks ago here in the last home game versus Edmonton, and he hasn't had the mobility that he would like.
1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. McManus steps in, throws. It was intended for Gordon, but deflected at the line of scrimmage.
Earlier, prior to the game, had an opportunity to talk with Marvin Pope, who put the last hit on Danny McManus, and he says it's very tough to play down on the defensive line now. He was the middle linebacker for the Calgary Stampeders last season, but he's picked up the tempo on the defensive line for the Stampeders coming into this game with 9 quarterback sacks on the season.
Pope looking to again apply some pressure. McManus has yet to complete a pass this afternoon. He's got his first. Trevathan makes the grab with Matt Finlay there to make the tackle. This will be very close to a 1st down. It will depend on where they spot him.
And Matt Finlay is playing the position that was played by Marvin Pope last season. You had talked with Coach Bono about Matt Finlay's statistics, saying that they were down, but he had elaborated on that the defense flows things, pushes things to the outside. They want everything stretched towards the sideline, trying to wear down an offense. But Matt Finlay, you can see, still has the mobility to get out and make a tackle.
Bono is saying he wants the ball going laterally. And this is the way Corey Philpott is attempting to go, but the Stampeders are having none of it. Zalo Floyd was in on the stop, so was Finlay. Finlay doesn't make a lot of tackles, but he does direct the Calgary defense from the middle linebacking position and does an outstanding job. Penalty call on the play.
Offside, Calgary number 38, 5-yard penalty, 1st down repeated.
Gerald Bond was offside on the play, so it would be 1st and 5 for the BC Lions as the ball comes up to the 51-yard line.
Well, the last time these two teams met, it was almost like a flag fest. BC had 24 penalties, and Calgary had 13 of its own, and so they've gotten off to the same start they had the last time they met.
Now, the Lions are the most penalized team in the league. As a matter of fact, they have 20 more penalties than the next closest team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Corey Philpott was on the receiving end of the throw with Anthony McClanahan over to make the tackle. They're going to try and move Corey Philpott around in their offensive scheme today, James.
Well, he's a great offensive tool to have. A lot of speed coming out of the tailback position. You see his receptions on the season. Dropped a crucial one last week in Edmonton and hopes to make an atone for it this afternoon at BC Place. But they need more of Corey Philpott if they're going to beat the Calgary Stampeders this afternoon.
Philpott was also telling us that 3 years ago when he first came into the league, he wasn't a very good receiver. He has improved his skills as a pass receiver. Penalty flag in the play. And I think Will Johnson may have been way offside.
Well, Danny McManus is doing a great job right now with his voice inflection. He has Calgary's defense a little bit antsy at this point, trying to get a jump on the ball.
Offside, Calgary, number 81, 5-yard penalty, first down repeated.
Wally Buono will not be happy with a couple of the offside plays of his team today. On one, Alan Pitts on an offensive series was at least 5 yards across the line of scrimmage. There wasn't much doubt that Will Johnson had made premature penetration into the BC Lion backfield. From the 48, it is first and 5. McManus looks over the middle. Incomplete. He actually had Trevathan breaking towards the sidelines, but he overthrew him. Dondre Owens was defending. It appears as though they're attempting to work on Dondre Owens, who is replacing Enos Jackson at an inside halfback position.
Well, he's actually replacing Leonard at the halfback position.
Leonard, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Both teams are playing this afternoon. But Dondre Owens was a pure cornerback when Calgary brought him in, and so teams have challenged him this year. But that time, BC's offensive line gave Danny McManus a great deal of time to throw the football, and that's what they need all afternoon.
Second and 5. McManus pulls him down. Now he throws. Pass is complete for a first down as Greg Knox came up to put the hit on Yo Murphy, but he hung on for a 16-yard gain.
Yo Murphy has been a very pleasant surprise for the BC Lions. Matt Clark, Mike Trevathan had been the go-to guys. Yo Murphy has been filling in for Darren Flutie. All three of those players came out of the same conference in college, the Big Sky Conference, and Yo Murphy was the Big Sky Conference all-time leading receiver when he left school at the University of Idaho.
Murphy did not play in the first 6 games of the season for the Lions. Play over on the far side of the field, and Robert Gordon makes the catch. Dondre Owens is the man who made the tackle, but not before he got to the 2-yard line. 30 yards in the game. After starting slowly, McManus has been firing strikes.
When you give Danny McManus the time, he has the arm that can get the ball down the field. Bobby Gordon came back after missing 3 games last week in Edmonton and had that great touchdown reception to put BC in the lead. Now he has them down at the 2-yard line.
First and goal, Corey Philpott got to the goal line and was driven back. Alondra Johnson, who has played very well for the Calgary Stampeders, straightened up Philpott and drove him back. He is looking for his 14th rushing touchdown of the year. He now goes out, and Ryan Hansen comes in on second and goal from the 1.
Statistically, coming into this game, Calgary had the second-rated defense in the CFL, so they're very tough to run against, and BC's offensive line needs a good surge now.
Hand off to Blackwood, and he isn't going to get in. McClanahan wrapped him up and celebrates. Second and goal from the 1, and they lost 3 yards on the play.
A very questionable call down at the goal line. You have your fullback, and you're trying to run him off tackle. This is in the area where you like to run your dive plays. Go straight ahead, send a back over the top. Great defense by McClanahan to stop him for the 3-yard loss on the play.
So Lou Pasaglia enters the ball game to attempt an 11-yard field goal. The only game this season in which Pasaglia did not kick a field goal was on July the 21st at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, but he gets his first of the afternoon, and the Lions, with 2:49 left in the quarter, lead by 2.
Look for Castrol GTX at these and other leading outlets.
Mixed emotions for Dave Ritchie. He saw his team drive down to the 1-yard line using up 5:07 on the clock, but then they were unable to punch it in. And over on the other side, Wally Buono has to be extremely pleased with the way his team came up with a defensive stand. And this is something that the Stampeders have done all year. They have been very difficult to run against. Coleman slipped as he attempted to make the cut at the 26-yard line, pinned there by Kelly Sims after an 11-yard return.
Now get a 28-point winter inspection, oil, lube, and filter, tire rotation, and a 4-liter jug of washer fluid, all for just $24.99, only at Canadian Tire.
When Sean Millington was playing fullback for the BC Lions, it was always a sure thing that he'd get a crushing block. Ryan Hansen has come in at fullback. Anthony McClanahan is here. He's going to slant down, and he's going to make the play on Blackwood. He's going to meet him right in the backfield. But Sean Millington was such a devastating blocker. Linebackers hardly ever made this play. Now they're running through freely, making them in BC's backfield.
There was a penalty on the kickoff, offside against the BC Lions, so they will kick off again from the 30-yard line. Caravata handles the kickoff chores for the BC Lions, and he was telling me that under the dome you don't get nearly as much distance as you do outdoors. He thinks there's some downward pressure that affects things. Coleman again on the return, straightened up by Brian Ford and driven back, a 16-yard run back.
Ford is starting this afternoon at an outside linebacker for Virgil Robinson, who had played that position last week, and Ford was inside and he moved outside. BC has such great flexibility in their linebacking core, and they're all relatively young. Last year they had 3 outstanding rookies that came in and made an impact on that Grey Cup championship team.
Garcia has only been able to complete 1 pass so far this afternoon, and that was into the hands of Alan Pitts, his 95th catch of the year. Garcia now under pressure, and down he goes at the 30-yard line. Henry Newby was the man who got through to him, and this is following the script as outlined by Dave Ritchie. He said we have to get more pressure on Jeff Garcia if we're going to be successful.
And that's one of those linebackers, Henry Newby, who was a rookie last year in his second season, getting his second quarterback sack of the game, but they're just bringing everyone against Garcia. As you see Chapman there also, along with Benefield.
And now Newby goes out, an extra defensive back in on an obvious passing situation. It is 2nd and 15 with 1:44 remaining in the opening quarter. Here comes Europe again. There's the pass. Picked off by Thomas. Oh, a huge block on Vaughn by Tony Collier. Garcia was being pressured. Tom Europe was coming on a safety blitz, and it was Eddie Thomas who made the interception, and on the return, a tremendous block by Collier.
You got Tommy Europe out here. They're bringing the pressure. Is going to come inside. This is what they have to do versus Jeff Garcia. They have to be relentless, and with the pressure, the young quarterback is feeling it. Eddie Thomas, been playing outstanding the past couple of weeks, comes up with the interception.
The Lions take over 1st and 10 from the 38. McManus throwing deep. Trevathan got turned around, and I think it went off either his helmet or his shoulder pad. Trevathan got in behind the defender, but had not yet turned to look back to the quarterback.
Well, it actually chips off of his left shoulder. Danny McManus threw a perfect strike, but Mike was looking on the inside, and Danny threw it to the outside. Danny was reading the coverage, and Mike was seeing something else. Just a miscommunication right there, but BC has to be happy with the success that they're having thus far.
1 minute remaining in the opening quarter. Little swing pass intended for Robert Gordon. It's incomplete. This is a bit of a new wrinkle for the BC Lions.
Putting Bobby Gordon in the backfield. Now, Bobby is the speediest receiver on the team, and so they felt if they got him in the backfield that he would be isoed on a linebacker. And the ball was just a little too far out in front of him. Actually took his eyes off the ball. BC had a case of dropsies last week, and they're hoping that it doesn't plague them this afternoon.
Dave Ritchie made these adjustments because of the hamstring problem that is plaguing Corey Philpott, but he also felt that he'd have some success by spreading his receiving core out and moving them around. This is a 44-yard field goal attempt for Lou Pasaglia. It's good. Will Johnson and Doug Peterson were involved in an altercation after the Pasaglia kick split the uprights. The officials were watching it, but there were no flags. But the BC Lions on 2 field goals by the leading scorer all time in the CFL, have a 5-point edge.
Well, BC has to be very pleased at this point. Last time these two teams met, Calgary had outscored them 15-0 in the first quarter, and they were down, and so they were fighting the entire game coming back. But right now, Calgary is the team for the second week in a row trailing, and BC has to feel very good defensively. They've played an exceptional game here in the first quarter.
Well, let's see if they can continue to put pressure on Jeff Garcia. Dave Ritchie is noted for going all out with his blitzing schemes. Hand off to Stewart, and Stewart will have a gain of about 8 yards.
Now that's one way to slow down a blitz, is running Tony Stewart. When you're passing every play, you become very predictable, and BC's defense has been gambling. Now Jeff Garcia has to be more patient as a quarterback.
In his first 8 games, Stewart ran for 187 yards. In his last 5 games, he has run for 297 yards. And that supports the theory of Wally Buono that with Hatnagle calling all the plays, Stewart gets the ball more. He got the ball that time and was brought down by Brian Ford. A big defensive play on the final play of the opening quarter, and the Stampeders will be forced to kick it away.
You'll see Doug play again this season.
Yeah, I don't think the medical staff would allow him to play, but perhaps later in the game we can get a positive word from Doug Foote. Here comes Gordon as he was going after a block. Ball fielded by Eddie Thomas. And Eddie Thomas is going to lose about 4 yards as Raymond Biggs was in pursuit. A loss of 4 after a 35-yard punt. 2 turnovers by the Stampeders in the opening quarter. And in terms of time of possession, a big edge for the BC Lions. Much of it on the drive that led to their initial field goal.
Well, they have to be very pleased with the poise that their offense has showed, not taking any unnecessary gambles and taking what the defense has given them in front of the coverage. And Danny McManus has been very sharp in the first quarter.
Matt Clark lines up wide to the left. McManus is operating from the shotgun.
Number 4.
Handoff inside to Corey Philpott, and Philpott is forced out of bounds on the far side of the field by Gerald Vaughn.
One of the things you get from this Calgary secondary is a lot of speed, and Gerald Vaughn has always been noted as a big hitter. So they have good inside-out pursuit, and Gerald Vaughn from his halfback position was able to track down Corey Philpott.
Philpott was the #1 man in all-purpose yards coming into weekend play in the CFL, but outstanding performances by Chris Wright and Mike Pringle of Baltimore have moved them ahead of Corey Philpott, who has dropped back into the #3 position in all-purpose yardage. McManus is picked off, intercepted by Alondra Johnson. And boy, had he ever taken a deep drop.
Alondra Johnson has always been noted for his speed at linebacker, and that's actually his first interception of the season. Thursday in practice, Alondra Johnson broke his right thumb, and he's playing with a cast on his thumb. As we get a shot of Marvin Pope, who talked about how difficult it is now to play the defensive line position, putting the pressure on McManus when his former mate, Alondra Johnson, picked off the pass.
So it will be 1st and 10 for the Stampeders from the 38-yard line of the BC Lions. The Lions leading by a score of 6-1 as Garcia operates from the shotgun. His pass is complete to Vaughn. Vaughn cuts back inside, looking for a block from Danielson. There's also a penalty flag. Henry Newby was there to make the tackle. It could be a roughing the passer call against the Lions.
David Benefield got there about a day late and hit Jeff Garcia, and it's gonna cost BC. This is one of the things that has troubled the Lions all season long, is unnecessary penalties, late hit on quarterbacks. If you have to take more than a stride, you have to pull up.
Roughing the passer. BC number 11. Half the distance to the goal line. First down, Calgary.
We'll get a good look right here as Benefield delivers the blow to Garcia. And the problem is he brings that elbow up into the throat area. And every time you do that, the officials are going to call that penalty. And Ken Lazarus was standing right there.
Two of the things that Richie said he wanted his team to avoid, turnovers and penalties, have hurt the Lions early in this second quarter. Stewart with a good hold, battling his way down to the 7-yard line, stopped there by David Benefield. Garcia looks over to the bench for some help from John Hufnagel in calling the next play.
That's the benefit of having your quarterback up under center, because your running game, you can have it involved in your offensive scheme. And Stewart has always been a very capable runner with his cutback ability, and the offensive line is getting a good surge up front for him.
Stewart comes out. Williams goes in. Collier comes in as an extra DB for the BC Lions. Garcia in the shotgun formation. 4 receivers wide to the right. The pass to Vaughn. Touchdown. Touchdown pass number 21 on the season for Jeff Garcia.
Well, Terry Vaughn has had an outstanding rookie season. The rookie out of the University of Arizona has filled in quite handsomely at the wide receiver position that was occupied by Wiggins last season. And he, on the rollout, you see Garcia, his mobility buys him the extra time as Brian Ford could not reach him. Touchdown, Calgary.
So the Stampeders quickly capitalize on an interception by Alondra Johnson, with Jeff Garcia finding Gerald Vaughn for the, pardon me, not Gerald, the other member of the Vaughn clan, Terry Vaughn, for the major score. The point after by McLaughlin, and the Stampeders lead by 2. The Stampeders needed just 3 plays to put it in the end zone following the Alondra Johnson interception, helped out by a roughing the passer penalty. But what numbers Jeff Garcia has posted since taking over from Doug Flutie. His first start was against Birmingham on the 26th of August, and since then he has passed for better than 500 yards once and over 400 yards on 2 occasions. McLennan on the kick return, taken out of bounds by Tyrone Williams. A 19-yard return.
Well, you'll see Terry Vaughn running a wheel route as Sapuntis goes inside with the chip on the defensive back. Vaughn out in the flat. He came into the game at the running back position, so you were going to get the mismatch with the linebacker, and Garcia laid it, but it was set up by...
Kickoff, 5-yard penalty, re-kick.
It was all set up by the interception by Alondra Johnson, the linebacker, and that's what you have to do when you get a turnover. Offensively, you need to capitalize on the mistake by the opposing team.
So the Stampeders will move back to their 30-yard line to kick off again following the offside penalty.
You know, this is not uncharacteristic when these two teams play each other to see an excessive amount of penalties. These teams have played each other for the top spots in the Western Division for the past several seasons, and so there's a lot of emotion and a lot of pride when you're out there on the field, and also a lot of trash talking, and some of that spills over into some personal foul penalties.
Well, you talk about trash talking. I don't know what James Jefferson has been saying to the Calgary bench, but every time he lines up at his defensive halfback position anywhere close to the Calgary bench, he's got something to say to the Stampeders. This is Eddie Thomas on the return. Broke the first tackle, but can't escape the second, and is brought down at the 37-yard line by Craig Brenner. Dondre Owens was the first man who had a shot at Eddie Thomas on the return and was unable to stop him, but did slow him up.
Alondra Johnson back on the field once again after getting that interception. If you see his right hand, he has a cast on his thumb. He broke that thumb last Thursday in practice trying to make an interception. He didn't have one on the season coming into the game, and he's picked up his first, and it led to Calgary's first touchdown this afternoon.
Well, he may ask to have his thumb taped or casted for every game if he has success like he has had early in this football game. McManus looks out into the flat. Low throw intended for a diving Yo Murphy. It will be 2nd and 10 for the BC Lions.
Well, the pressure has been relentless on Danny McManus since midway through the first quarter. Marvin Pope has had a lot of success coming around that corner. He's a lot quicker than most defensive ends that you're going to find playing on the weak side, being a former linebacker. And he's been able to turn the corner because he's short in stature. He can get up underneath the larger offensive tackles.
And he usually arrives in a bad frame of mind. 2nd and 10. McManus looks over the middle, intended for Gordon, broken up by Coleman. So it's 2 and out for the BC Lions. Danny McManus had problems early in the football game, put together a good drive. Now in this second quarter is having some problems again in finding his receivers.
And Marvin Coleman's outstanding season continues. He came into the game 2nd on the defensive tackles for Calgary, and he had an excellent break on the ball to bat it away from Gordon at the last moment.
Lou Pasaglia with 3,135 career points. Marvin Coleman, the lone man back for this 3rd down punt by Pasaglia. This bounces away from Coleman, but he may trap players inside the 5-yard area. He does. Brian Ford makes the tackle, but Bobby Gordon was right behind Coleman, only about a yard away, and could not get out of there following the 37-yard kick by Pasaglia.
Now get a 28-point winter inspection, oil, lube, and filter, tire rotation, and a 4-liter jug of washer fluid, all for just $24.99, only at Canadian Tire.
10:38 remaining in the half. The Stampeders leading by a score of 8-6, and they have it 1st and 10. The ball is at their own 44-yard line. Garcia is going to operate out of the shotgun. 3 receivers wide to the left. He looks that direction, throws that way. Penalty flags back at the line of scrimmage. It was intended for Terry Vaughn. It falls short of the target. It appears to be a holding call against Calgary.
That call is going to come against number 53, Denny Chronopoulos, who played with the BC Lions last season.
Stampeders have a number of players who were
Holding,
previously with
Calgary,
BC.
number 64, 10-yard penalty, 1st down repeated.
They flagged Bruce Beaton, actually. He was a draft choice of the BC Lions.
But you'll get a good look inside. It's Glenn Scribner's coming around. He's being held also by Chronopoulos, and Beaton was holding on Benefield, but Scribner's been playing outstanding as of late, has been putting a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks.
1st and 20 now as the ball goes back to the 34-yard line. The fake, the handoff to Stewart, and Stewart on the inside move is brought down by Tyrone Chapman.
Tyrone Chapman had a rough game last week in Edmonton Court. Eric Blount had an outstanding game running against this defense, but Chapman feeling more at home here on the AstroTurf, able to get across in the flow and get in on the tackle. They need real solid gameplay from their linebackers this afternoon.
Well, I think Coach Ritchie may have suggested something to Tyrone Chapman about picking up the level of his game for this battle with the Calgary Stampeders, the #1 team overall in the Canadian Football League. Just 1 loss this year. The pass intended for Sapuntis over his head. Robert Davis was in defending as the BC Lions again were in that 6 DB set.
But also with the 6 defensive backs, the defensive line is getting the pressure on Garcia. Dave Chaters coming from that inside tackle position, just leveling Garcia as he releases the pass, and they've been consistent with their pressure.
The front 3 along the D line for the Lions should be in a medical ward. Chaters has a knee problem, Scribner with a hand injury, and we talked earlier about Stewart with the shoulder separation. But that's the price you have to pay in pro sports. You have to be able to play hurt.
Well, I think a lot of credit goes to the athletic therapist for the Lions, Bill Rochette.
Off the side of Tony Martino's foot, and it will be marked out of bounds at the 49, and that's where the Lions will scrimmage 1st and 10 when we return. 9 minutes remaining in the first half. James talked about Bill Rochette, the Lions trainer, and he's in his 19th season with BC, and Rochette was particularly busy at Grey Cup time last year prior to the victory over Baltimore. He had a lineup of guys, including both quarterbacks, waiting to get into the hyperbaric chamber.
Well, he's done a fine job in mending this team this season, keeping them healthy, and they've had a lot of players beat up.
One of them has been Corey Philpott, who is playing despite a hamstring problem. He's brought down by Will Johnson.
We talked about Rochette working on the BC sideline, and Alan Pitts on the Calgary sideline has been stretching out his back and hamstrings. Pat Clayton, the trainer for Calgary, working with the big angler receiver right there. A lot of long legs with Alan Pitts, so you got to keep him limber.
Pat Clayton working on Alan Pitts at the Calgary bench. Second down pass is complete for a big first down. Matt Clark on the receiving end of the throw, with Greg Knox making the tackle.
Clark and Trevathan, the Montana collection. Matt Clark playing wide out. Danny McManus, strong arm, getting the ball out to Clark, who ran the curl route in front of Jordan. But this is what BC needs to do more of. Keep McManus comfortable in the pocket and let him throw strikes.
This time Clark comes wide to the left. He had a huge game against the Edmonton Eskimos in the 39-36 overtime loss last week at Commonwealth Stadium. Penalty flag on the play. And now it's a question of what happened, and it looks as though it may have been one of the BC offensive linemen moving prior to the ball being snapped.
Looked like Freudic on this play, 59.
Legal procedure. BC, number 59, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Well, Will Johnson, one of the best pure pass rushers, as we get a shot at defensive coach Gene Gaines on the sideline, but Will Johnson, one of the better pure pass rushers in the CFL, will make most offensive tackles antsy. That time, Freudic moved prematurely.
First and 15 from the 50-yard line. McManus with time, deep. Corey Philpott was in behind the defender, and the ball was just slightly underthrown. I think it hit the defender in the back, and I think that's what Mike Trevathan is protesting about.
Well, they were very fortunate that this ball was underthrown. Alondra Johnson was beat deep by Corey Philpott, and it would have been a face guarding call except for the ball hitting Johnson in the back of the helmet. That made the ball uncatchable for Philpott, and it saved Calgary from a big penalty on that play.
Second and 15, 7 minutes remaining in the first half. Clark and Philpott both swing out to the left. Pass over the middle, complete for a first down, and Bobby Gordon takes it inside the 35-yard line. Upset by Marvin Coleman.
BC's offense has been known for its possession receivers. Bobby Gordon is the speediest of that foursome, but he was able to come across. And what you can do when you clear out with the deep routes when the defense is unsuspecting, bring your fast receiver underneath, and he picked up the first down.
Talk about possession receivers for the Lions. They are missing for a 6th consecutive game. Number 1 possession receiver, Darren Flutie. Here's McManus over the middle, and it was almost picked off by Jackie Kellogg as he was defending against Trevathan.
Jackie Kellogg, they're very happy to have Jackie Kellogg. 1994, he spent training camp with the San Francisco 49ers, attended that training camp again this season, was released sitting at home in Eastern Washington waiting on the phone to ring, and the phone rang from the Calgary Stampeders, and he's their dime back in their scheme, and excellent coverage that time on Trevathan.
It will be second and 10. The ball is at the 34-yard line. Gordon is wide left. Gordon goes deep. Touchdown! 34-yard strike to Robert Gordon.
When you give Danny McManus the time he can throw with any quarterback in the CFL, if you recall last week, it was Bobby Gordon who made the big touchdown reception in the same spot in Commonwealth Stadium.
But unfortunately for the Lions, it did not stand up as what they thought would be the winning score. 5:31 remains in the first half. Robert Gordon with his second touchdown of the year, capping a 7-play, 61-yard drive.
The key to this route is that Gordon sold him on the inside, and once he got even, he took off, and Coleman had to chase him at that point. And we know that Gordon is the speediest receiver that BC has, and it was 6 points in the air from McManus.
5:31 remaining in the first half as Coleman brings it back. Coleman looking for some blocking up near midfield, and he gets to the 53 of the Lions with David Benefield making the stop. A 32-yard run back for Coleman, and that provides the Stampeders with excellent field position once again.
That just shows how much a team player that Coleman is. He was burned on the previous play by Gordon for the touchdown, but came back and gave his team great field position out across midfield with that kickoff return. And when you're playing with the short field, this is where Garcia has to take advantage of what his special team has given him, field position at the 54-yard line.
An extra receiver in as Stewart comes to the bench. 4 receivers lined up to the left. Garcia won't get a chance to throw. Buried by Henry Newby, and then he got some help from Andrew Stewart. Coach Ritchie was saying that the addition of Newby would probably give his team more aggressiveness and a better pass rush.
Well, what they were able to do was run a stunt up front with Newby and Ford. Newby was outside, Ford was inside. Ford took the rush out. Newby folded around, and that's where the sack result came from. Excellent teamwork by the BC Lions.
That takes the ball back to the 45. Second and 21. Penalty flag in the play. The pass over the middle to Sapunjas. He is stopped at the 52, but there is a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. Tom Europe made the tackle. It's offside against the Lions.
The Lions have been playing very aggressive defense this afternoon. You have to like the game plan of Coach Gene Gaines, who has set this up.
Offside, BC number 92, 5-yard penalty, second down, repeat it.
They've been executing the game plan the way he's called it up, except for these unnecessary penalties that they've been taking. Gene Gaines has done a fine job of scripting the game plan.
Defensively, he sends in Robert Davis as Glenn Scribner comes out. The extra DB in there on this second and 16 play. Garcia is forced to pull it down, and then he's forced out of bounds. Again, it was Henry Newby in pursuit. Garcia was saying that in his final year in college football, when his father was the coach, he did a lot of running as a quarterback. But he took some punishment last week in the hits he absorbed from the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, you can take a lot of punishment from these BC linebackers. Spoke about earlier, they have 3 young linebackers that came in last season and really exceeded all expectations of the coaching staff, and they've kept the pace up here in their sophomore season, as we've seen Henry Newby on this drive make 2 outstanding plays.
3:45 remaining in the first half. 13-8, the BC Lions lead it. Martino's last punt only traveled 22 yards. This is a good one. Thomas goes all the way to the 5-yard line, and he won't get much beyond the 8 on the return attempt, tackled there by Zizakovic.
What's going on at the clinic?
She's not responding. Give me a
Well, we talked earlier, James, about the Lions spreading the defense with Gordon and Philpott lining up wide, and that's one of the reasons they were able to score the touchdown by Gordon. This pass into the hands of Philpott, and Philpott looking for a first down, gets it up to the 16.
Well, this is one of the weapons that they have with Philpott coming out of the backfield. You can see the speed of Philpott with Calgary's defense in hot pursuit.
3 minutes remaining in the first half, with the Lions in front by 5. The BC Lions are looking at 2nd and 2. The ball is at the 16-yard line.
The subtleties of an offense when things go unnoticed, when a quarterback is completing passes. Philpott's going to run the route over here, but watch the arc by the offensive line that will give Danny McManus the time. He can sit back in his pocket comfortably, find his crossing running back, picks up 8 yards on first down.
McManus this season has put the ball in the air now 501 times. The only other passer with over 500 attempts, Matt Dunnigan. Corey Philpott taken out of bounds. And the Lions are going to be forced to kick it away. We talked about Matt Finlay. He doesn't make a lot of tackles, but directs the defense, wants plays to go laterally, and they've certainly forced Philpott out wide to the right.
That was a perfect example as everyone scraping down the line, not allowing the seams. Once you get a lot of defensive players getting out of their lanes, and if you play your lanes, you can make plays like Calgary just did in stopping Philpott for a 3-yard loss on the play.
Bisaglia punting out of his end zone. Stampeders, before this half ends, are going to get the ball back in excellent field position. Coleman dove and took it at the 39-yard line. A bit of a gamble by Coleman, but he didn't want the ball bouncing on the artificial turf.
Well, there's excellent field position, and spoke about the net yardage of Louis Bisaglia, only 32 coming into the game, and that time he only got 27 on that punt, 27 net yards. So Calgary has to feel very happy with the field position. John Huffnagel, the offensive coordinator for Calgary, on the sideline. Last time these two teams met, BC scored 23 second quarter points. Calgary has held them in check this afternoon.
4 receivers this time wide to the right. Penalty flag as Garcia throws it over the middle, in and out of the hands of Vaughn, and he gets it back again. But at the line of scrimmage, there was a penalty flag. .229 remaining in the half.
Offside, BC number 94, decline. 2nd down.
The offside call against Henry Newby. It will be 2nd and about 1. Well, Newby has certainly been a factor in more ways than one today.
Well, that's one fact he wants to forget about, but this is an excellent position for Calgary to be in. This is what you call your waist down. 2nd and 1. Look for Garcia to go up top.
Garcia is going to keep it himself on the quarterback sneak, and he gets a first down to the 25-yard line.
That's the position on the field, though. If you want to gamble, that's the safe down to gamble on. His big offensive line is almost assured of picking up the first down for him, but go up top, try to strike and get some more points going into halftime.
Last week against Toronto, 2nd down conversions were a huge problem for the Stampeders. They didn't complete 1 in 6 tries. Garcia, 4 receivers to the right, throws for Alan Pitts, incomplete. A little high and long, and they were doubling on Alan Pitts with Davis over to help out Eddie Thomas.
Actually, a bad read by Jeff Garcia. He had triple coverage. You also saw Tom Europe coming over from his free safety, the young quarterback, feeling that he can go to Pitts in any situation, and he'll come up with the catch. Look at Pitts, look off the rest of the coverage, come backside. You got one-on-one with Vaughn, who was wide open.
Why wouldn't he go to Pitts? He's got Hall of Fame numbers. Again, 4 receivers wide to the right. Stewart is on the bench, the extra receiver in there. Garcia is throwing for Pitts, and again he overthrew him. Pitts was one-on-one with Tony Collier in the corner, but Garcia lobbed it over his head.
Garcia was feeling the pressure of a David Benefield, who was all over him as he released that pass, and that's what BC has been able to do this afternoon. They've been able to rattle the cage of Jeff Garcia, get in his head a little bit, and it has the young quarterback thinking about the pressure from the BC Lions.
Benefield leads the team in sacks. He had an even dozen coming into this game. 1:43 remaining in the first half. 13-8, the Lions lead it. And Mark McLaughlin will attempt a 32-yard field goal. It's up and it's good. And it's a 2-point football game with 1:39 left in the half.
Donna James coming up in our BF Goodrich TA halftime report. We'll wrap up the weekend for you so far. And Donna James, of course, will have highlights from here at BC Place Stadium, the Stampeders and Lions. Guys?
Well, the BC Lions, with a win, could move into a tie with the Edmonton Eskimos for second place in the Northern Division. The Eskimos have a bye week this week. They would have identical 10-5 records. The Calgary Stampeders at 13-1. Talking with many of the players, James, they think they can go 17-1.
Well, that's a very confident attitude that Calgary has, and I kind of like their chances also the way they've been playing. You know, people that describe this team for years as Doug Flutie and the Calgary Stampeders. They're going to have to start recognizing Wally Buono and the Calgary Stampeders.
Pretty good supporting cast that Doug Flutie has had over the years. Here's Trevathan over to the 30-yard line. To Mike Trevathan.
And Mike Trevathan in pursuit of a 1,000-yard season in his own right, fighting with Vaughn down the field, getting loose. Vaughn turned his head. Mike Trevathan keeping concentration on the football once again. The offensive line, though, the story for the BC Lions, giving quarterback Danny McManus the time to find his receivers deep downfield, and Mike Trevathan has gone over the 1,000-yard mark.
2 catches for 55 yards this afternoon. McManus completes the pass to Robert Gordon, and he will have a pickup of about 9. Anthony McClanahan was there to make the tackle. Gordon has scored the lone touchdown for the BC Lions.
And what a difference one receiver will make in your offense. Bobby Gordon has been able to stretch defenses for the past 2 weeks, and Calgary has not found a defensive back who can cover him man for man, and he's having an exceptional first half here today.
Philpott takes the ball on second down, and he's got a first down as he struck inside the 20-yard line before being stopped by Greg Knox. Coming into the game, Philpott, the number 2 rusher behind Mike Pringle of the Baltimore Stallions.
The last time these two teams met, Corey Philpott was held to 6 yards rushing on 4 carries in the first half, and he's exceeded that number this afternoon.
First and 10 from the 18. Into the end zone, Gordon, touchdown!
Danny McManus takes a serious shot, but the willingness of the BC quarterback to hang out in the pocket. People have looked at Danny McManus' stats this year. He is not concerned with personal numbers and accolades. All he wants is for his team to win. Bobby Gordon with his 2nd touchdown of the afternoon.
And McManus has his team in a winning position right now with 28 seconds remaining in the half. They lead it by 20-11. 2 big touchdown strikes from McManus to Robert Gordon.
The BC quarterback has taken a beating most of the year, but his willingness to stay in the pocket so that his receivers can clear the defensive coverage, and the result, touchdown once again. That's your consummate team player, and he's very happy to have his deep threat in Bobby Gordon back in the lineup.
Well, the fans at BC Place Stadium delighted with the play of the Lions in this opening half against the number 1 team, the Calgary Stampeders. Only 3 touchdown catches this year for Robert Gordon. His first came late in the game at Commonwealth Stadium last week, and he has 2 more today.
And a concerned Wally Buono on the sideline. His team has been played head-to-head very tough this afternoon at BC Place Stadium. They came in facing a very hungry BC Lion team that has been desperate for a victory. They're only one in their last 5, and so they really need to get off the block and pick up the tempo.
In 4 plays, the Lions moved 75 yards. The big play, in addition to the touchdown strike to Gordon, was the 44-yard pass to Bobby Gordon. Mike Trevathan, I should have said, was the man on the receiving end of that 44-yard throw. Gordon on the touchdown end of things.
Well, now Calgary's offense, Jeff Garcia has been rattled here in the first half. The BC defense has been relentless. The linebackers have had an exceptional afternoon versus the Calgary quarterback.
Garcia operates from the shotgun. 3 receivers wide to the right, dumping it off to Tony Stewart, and Stewart is going to attract the crowd at the 47-yard line. With just 18 seconds remaining in the half, Glenn Scrivener was over among those making the tackle.
What you're getting this afternoon from the BC Lions is a lot of game tackling. You're seeing 3 and 4 black jerseys around every ball carrier for the Calgary Stampeders.
For Alan Pitts, incomplete. You don't often see Alan Pitts drop a pass. May have been looking upfield at about the same time the ball arrived. Tom Europe was right behind him, ready to make a tackle.
Well, he dropped one last week like that versus Toronto and came back the next play and caught a touchdown. But when we look at Sapunjas and Pitts, only 1 reception between them. Bobby Gordon with in excess of 100 yards in receptions in the first half.
Alan Pitts last week equaled Brian Kelly's CFL record, 41 games of 100 yards or more.
Well, he's done it in fine fashion. He needs 1 more to break that record, but the way that BC has been playing defense this afternoon is going to be awfully tough for him to achieve that milestone.
Lions have been doubling up on many occasions on the 2 inside receivers, Sapunjas and Pitts.
Well, I like Coach Gene Gaines' defensive game plan. Shut down the inside receivers, force the ball out to the wideouts, and his defense has played solid this afternoon.
The ball bounces to Eddie Thomas, and Thomas goes down at the 29-yard line. And that should be the final play of the first half here at BC Place Stadium, with the Lions heading to the dressing room with a 9-point lead. Danny McManus with 2 touchdown strikes to Robert Gordon. And he took advantage of what the Calgary Stampeder defense was giving him in the second quarter to put the Lions in front. Now let's go down to field level, and here's Steve.
Thank you, Don. I'm with the head coach of the BC Lions, Dave Ritchie. Dave, I know the game plan going in was to get as much pressure on Jeff Garcia as possible. It worked.
So far, it's an awful good football team. They got a lot of offensive weapons, and we'll just have to come out and play hard on defense and let our offense come out and control the football.
I was going to suggest that maybe the BC Lions offense was a little inconsistent, but maybe it was Danny McManus's patience.
Probably so. They've been trying to move the ball. We've had some bad field position. The interceptions when they went in and scored on us, so we just have to come out and play another good half.
That's a great combination, McManus to Gordon.
Super. Hope we keep it up some more.
Good luck in the second half. Dave Ritchie, the head coach of the BC Lions, making his way to the dressing room. Just ahead, we have the BF Goodrich TA halftime report from BC Place Stadium in Vancouver, where the BC Lions head into the dressing room leading 20-11.
Welcome to the BF Goodrich TA halftime. Now here's your host, Steve Armitage.
This is a great day to be inside because it is pouring outside of BC Place Stadium. Welcome to the BF Goodrich TA halftime report. The BC Lions leading the Calgary Stampeders 20-11 at halftime. This is a big weekend and a crucial weekend for a number of teams in the CFL. We've got the highlights for you, and we start with Baltimore, Saskatchewan. A big factor in Baltimore, the kick returns of Chris Wright. He had a total of 253 yards, 100 off a missed field goal, and this 89-yarder off a punt that gave the Stallions a 17-7 lead at the half. A rookie from Georgia Southern, a one-man highlight reel for Baltimore in this game. And this game would come down to the talented leg of Carlos Huerta, a 29-yard field goal that sent 31,000 fans home happy. Baltimore go to 13-3 and clinch first place in the South with a win over Saskatchewan. In the Pirates' den, Hall fumbles off a Taylor pass. Larry Thompson is there to recover, and the Ticats go in front. At the close of the half, Billy Joe Tolliver goes 30 yards to Martin Patton. His 14th touchdown of the season. It's tied at 13. In the fourth quarter, again, a Tolliver strike. This one covers 34 yards to Norman Bradford. Shreveport, who are going nowhere in postseason, do nothing to enhance the Tabbies' playoff chances. The Pirates Shanghai Hamilton 26-14. At the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Greg Battle blocked a Rough Rider field goal attempt, and the Dogs were off and snarling. The former NFLer Gary Anderson takes a Damon Allen pass. The play covers 16 yards, and that's it for major strikes in this one. The difference for the Mad Dogs, 6 field goals from Nick Maestrom. This one a 51-yarder. The Mad Dogs bite the Riders 26-7 and remain alive for second in the South. In Legion Field in Birmingham, Sam Peebles recovers a blocked punt, and the Barracudas take a 7-3 lead. Ted Long takes a 3-yard toss from Matt Dunnigan, and the Cudas move in for the kill. Shante Peebles in the third quarter, another key fumble recovery, and the Texans are chum and done. 38-28 Birmingham. The Cudas and Texans now tied for second in the South. Here at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver, we've got a good one going. It is the BC Lions leading the Calgary Stampeders 20-11. Stay with us. We've got more at halftime here at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. It's raining outside. It is warm and toasty on the inside. Here at BC Place Stadium, we've got a good one going. The Lions leading the Calgary Stampeders at the half, 20-11. The second half of our Thanksgiving Day doubleheader takes place in Toronto this afternoon, where the Argos will entertain the Blue Bombers in a big game for both teams. We are going there now via the electronic highway to join Scott Oak, who will give us a preview of the second half of this double this afternoon, the Blue Bombers and the Argos. Scott?
All right, Steve, you may have an upset in the works at BC Place, and the Argos are hoping for the same result here at Skydome tonight, but the once mighty Bombers may have some life in them yet. If they beat the Argos tonight, they'll take a giant step towards the playoffs, and that's good news for a team that's nearing the end of a season-long salvage operation. The Bombers haven't missed the playoffs in 16 years. At times this year it's looked dim, but they feel now they've got a shot.
In sports or anything else in life, whenever you have a chance, then you're okay.
I think we're at that point now where we can say, hey, we're playing as a team, we're playing as a unit, and as long as we continue that, then we're going to be successful.
Hopefully we can keep the same lineup up front in the second, in our backfield and our receiving core for the rest of the season, and see how it works out.
This week I could say, was the best week of practice we had all year since I've been here. And right now it's do or die, so we got to come out here and perform well.
By the way, if the Argos lose tonight, their playoff aspirations are officially dead. The Bombers feel they've really upgraded their defense with the addition of linebacker John Moten. He had some great years with the Hamilton Ticats, and Winnipeg signed him just this week. Let's go to field level now and join Danny Ray Kepley.
Thank you, Scott. I'm here with John Moten, the new addition to linebacker to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. John, I know you started the 1995 season with Birmingham. Tell us where you've been the past couple of months.
Well, I just had a 3-month-old baby daughter named Jonna and just been at home having fun with her.
Okay. I tell you what, 4 really super years in Hamilton. You set some pretty high standard for yourself. You've been out of the game for a few months now. Can you still play to that kind of level?
You know, I've been at home, you know, staying in decent shape. I feel I still have the capability of being a factor into the game.
I know for a fact, John, that Winnipeg is noted for some linebackers with attitudes. Now, do you fit the mold?
I hope to bring attitude with me. I'm just trying to be here, you know, putting on my best.
All right, then. You got something to say?
Karen, Charmer, Teresa, y'all stay up now. Peace.
Thank you very much, John. Scott?
Okay, it was either that message or Kep had to lend John Moten $2 for the payphone. Bombers and Argos clash here at Skydome tonight in the second half of our Thanksgiving Day doubleheader. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. And if you and I had a nickel for every time we have used the term must-win situation, we could retire tomorrow. Right now, we're going to head up to the booth and get the highlights from the first half here at BC Place Stadium, and I'm sure there are many of them from Don and James. Guys?
Well, Steve, as we said during the telecast, Dave Ritchie made a comment yesterday. His team had to avoid turnovers. It was a turnover that led to the lone Calgary touchdown and interception by Alondra Johnson.
Alondra Johnson was able to pick up his first interception of the season, but as Calgary has done so often this year, they were able to capitalize with an offensive touchdown. They were able to march downfield. Garcia got him down in the red zone. Terry Vaughn out in the flat, picking up Calgary's first score of the game.
Vaughn has been the favorite target all afternoon for Jeff Garcia, who has only completed 5 passes. 3 of them have gone to Vaughn. The favorite target for Danny McManus has been Robert Gordon, 2 touchdowns in the second quarter.
Well, Robert has come back in fine fashion in the 2 games that he's been back with the BC Lions. The first strike of 34 yards and the second touchdown, an 18-yard route. And that's what the BC Lions have needed, that spark in their receiving game that could get deep behind the coverage. And Robert Gordon is back, and he's been able to supply that thus far.
2 things the Lions were hoping to do this afternoon: spread the Calgary defense around with a little different look, and also to double the 2 inside stars of the Stampeders, Sapunjas and Pitts.
But the big plus in getting that job done is that the defensive line and linebackers have been able to get an adequate amount of pressure on Jeff Garcia. And if your quarterback cannot get comfortable in the pocket, it's going to be very difficult for him to find his open receivers downfield, and BC has done a fine job.
Well, the Calgary Stampeders in their last 2 games have been down and have come back for a victory. They trail by 9 and still have 30 minutes remaining here at BC Place Stadium. Steve?
Thank you, Don. This has been our B.F. Goodrich TA halftime report from BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. We are at the half. The BC Lions are leading the Calgary Stampeders 20-11. It should be a very entertaining second half. Stay with us.
The CFL on CBC. Brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA. Performance. Serious performance.
That giant mushroom you see on the right of your screen is BC Place Stadium. There have been times at this time of year when the players would love to have been able to open the mushroom. Not today. It is pouring rain, heavy rain as a matter of fact, so it's a good time to be inside. And inside with me now is the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders, Wally Bono. Wally, a comment on that first half.
Well, it's a good first half, and obviously BC came to play, and right now we're not executing as well as we should, and as you saw, it kept us off balance.
Wally, they also came at your quarterback, Jeff Garcia. What adjustments will you have to make, if any?
Well, I think one thing we got to do is deliver the football. We know there's zero coverage. We know that they got one more guy rushing than we do, and the young quarterback's got to deliver the football.
What kind of a second half do you expect to see? What'd you say to the team in the intermission?
I think the big thing we talked about is executing. We didn't execute in the first half, and it put us behind by 9 points.
Thanks, Wally. Good luck. Guys, up to you.
Well, the Stampeders have only lost once this year. That was at home on the 18th of August to Birmingham, 31-28. They have a perfect 6-0 record on the road that is in danger of going down this afternoon. 205 passing yards for Danny McManus in the first half, just 46 for Jeff Garcia. And remember, Garcia, in his 6 previous starts, has had 2 games where he has passed for better than 400 yards, 1 for better than 500 yards. But he is seeing some different looks from the BC Lions defensively this afternoon.
Well, the number one look that Jeff Garcia has been seeing is the top of BC Place Stadium, because he's been on his back quite a few times this afternoon. And whenever you as a defense can force a quarterback to start throwing from the prone position with happy feet, you can have a lot of success. And Jeff Garcia is now finding what it's like to be a full-time starter in the CFL.
The Calgary Stampeders won the Grey Cup in 1992 with a 24-10 win over Winnipeg. In 93, they went 15-3, lost the West Final. In 94, 15-3, lost the West Final. They are 13-1 this season, 43-7 over the last 3 years. But it will not be a good year again as far as the Stampeders are concerned, unless they get back to the Grey Cup.
When you think about what Calgary has been limited to here in the first half of this game, 5 times their offense this year has gone over 500 yards in total offense. 1 time this season, they have eclipsed the 600-yard mark. So you really have to take your hat off to this BC Lion defense for playing an outstanding game, but also the BC Lion offense for keeping this high-potent Calgary offense off the field.
Well, the Stampeders last year scored 698 points. This year they're on pace to score 680, averaging almost 38 points per game. They do have an explosive offense, but so far they have been kept in check by the BC Lions. Caravada's kickoff taken by Pee Wee Smith, and he goes down at the 30-yard line. Pretty good downfield coverage again by the Lions, who are playing with some determination, limiting the run back to 15. But perhaps a little over-aggressiveness in making the play on Pee Wee Smith, as there is a rough play call signaled against the Lions.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. BC number 3, 15-yard penalty. First down, Calgary.
Kelly Sims guilty of the penalty call. The BC Lions, the most penalized team in the league coming into this game. They have also had more yardage marched off against them than any other team, and that upsets Dave Ritchie. Garcia completes the throw into the hands of Vince Danielson, and that will be a first down for the Stampeders at the 52 of the Lions. Garcia has thrown 1 touchdown pass this afternoon, and that is to Terry Vaughn, his favorite target. He's only completed 5. He now has 6 completions. He has not been able to get the ball thus far into the hands of Dave Sapunjas, who has 96 receptions on the season. First and 10 from the 52. Garcia for Tony Stewart. There's a penalty flag in the Calgary backfield. Eddie Thomas forced Stewart out of bounds.
Well, you talk about Sapunjas, but also Pee Wee Smith has not been able to touch the football this afternoon for the Calgary offense. We're going to get a holding.
Holding. Calgary number 53, 10-yard penalty. First down, repeated.
And that holding penalty, that is part of the pressure that the defense has been able to apply, the consistent pressure up front. Denny Chronopoulos being flagged last year, a member of the BC Lions offensive line that won that Grey Cup in that thrilling last play of the game with the Lupus Aglia kick, and Coach Wally Bono is puzzled.
His team trails by 9 points and is now looking at first and 20. They are backed up to their own 48-yard line. 4 receivers wide to the right. Garcia completes the pass to Sapunjas. He's tackled at the 54-yard line.
You know, in talking with Coach Buono yesterday, he felt that his team last week versus Toronto had passed the test, coming from behind late in that game to win the game at home. but now, once again, back-to-back weeks, they're being tested here at BC Place. Probably a more formidable opponent with the BC Lions, and a grudge match also in this conference victory-wise.
2nd and 12 for the Stampeders. It appears in this second half up front the Stampeders have made some adjustments. Garcia seems to be getting a little more time to throw. Although he was hurried that time and looking for Sapunjas. Scribner was pressuring the young Calgary quarterback, who was attempting to put the ball into the hands of Dave Sapunjas.
Well, the defensive line has really played with some tenacity for BC, and the offensive line has given their all trying to buy their young quarterback some time, but they're diving all around him, and you can see he has those happy feet. And when you find a quarterback with the happy feet, not often will they complete a pass.
Tony Martino this afternoon is below his seasonal punting average by about 3 yards. Taken by Thomas at the 15-yard line. Thomas was looking for the wall to set up to the right, but lost yards on the attempted return, tackled by Tony Stewart. That was a 39-yard kick, a loss of 2. And James, you have been throwing this trivia question at a lot of people over the past couple of days. Has anybody been able to answer it?
Well, you haven't come up with it. We're going to let the fans...
I can think of one, and it's obvious. He's here today, but not playing. Doug Flutie.
Well, the second one, you know, we'll let the fans think about that for a while, and we'll bring it back with the answer after a couple of plays.
But the quarterback at the moment for the BC Lions is Danny McManus, and he did a superb job in the second quarter of putting the Lions in front, and the man he went to was Robert Gordon. And Gordon is taken out of bounds as he gets up to the 17-yard line. Marvin Coleman took him out of bounds. Let's go down to the sidelines and bring in Steve.
Thank you, Don. I'm with Doug Flutie. Doug, we saw you bouncing the ball. We saw you throwing the ball before the game. Does that mean you'll be back for the playoffs?
No, that doesn't mean anything. I can flip the ball around a little bit, but if I reared back and tried to snap a throw off, chances are it would pull right back off the bone, and I've got a couple more months to wait.
Yes or no? You going to the Argos with John Hufnagel?
I've heard nothing about it. I've just heard the rumors, too.
Guys, back to you.
Yes, those rumors will not die as McManus has his arm hit in the process of throwing, and it, fortunately for the BC Lions, flutters harmlessly to the ground. Yeah, the rumor about Hufnagel perhaps moving somewhere else in the CFL with quarterback Doug Flutie have been around for a few weeks now.
Well, the rumor of John Hufnagel constantly getting a head coaching job has been throughout the CFL for the past 3 seasons. And, you know, he's gone to a lot of interviews. He hasn't gotten any takers yet. But, you know, you have to admire what he's done here with this Calgary offensive scheme. It's been very successful. And since he's been here, they basically had 3 quarterbacks that have been able to operate it. Danny Barrett, Doug Flutie, and Jeff Garcia.
And operated well. Penalty flag in the play as Marvin Coleman alertly came running up to take the ball on the dead run, and in the process he trapped a couple of players inside the 5-yard area. Only a 29-yard punt. 11:42 is the time remaining in the third quarter here at BC Place Stadium, with the Lions leading by 9.
Go yards.
The Stampeders will have it 1st and 10 at the BC 33-yard line, trailing by 9 points with 11:40 and the clock running, the time remaining in the third quarter. Garcia gives to Stewart. Stewart found a hole that opened up momentarily before being closed off by Brian Ford for a gain of about 5.
That time, Garcia came with the run, trying to see what BC is trying to do versus him defensively, trying to see if they're going to be blitzing. But now he's going to have to go back and pass, and this is where BC has been pinning back their ears.
Garcia with a 4-receiver set to the right, operating from the shotgun. Garcia steps up and overthrows Vince Danielson. And Garcia, as he has done several times this afternoon, is on his back after completing the throw.
Well, it's been a tough afternoon for the young quarterback. Brian Ford has had an excellent game today. Got a quick jump that time, but the pressure up the middle from Chaters and Scribner, along with Ford, getting there, putting Garcia down once again. And when you have a quarterback in that position, he becomes a little leery. And this is the first time that Jeff Garcia has felt consistent pressure since he started at quarterback for Calgary.
McLaughlin has attempted just one field goal, and it was good from 32 yards out. This will be from 4 yards farther back at the 36. And like the first, this one is also good, and it's now a 6-point football game. The BC Lions leading Calgary. Well, James, I got part of your trivia question with Doug Flutie as one of 2 quarterbacks who started his career with the BC Lions.
Who was the other one that started? You know, this is a question. 1988, Ricky Foggy started his career, has started 4 games this year for the Memphis Southmen. Make that the Memphis Mad Dog. I'm saying Southmen, that's the World Football League.
That's another era.
There's been so many teams down there in Memphis, but Doug Flutie and Ricky Foggy, and Doug Flutie has been a record-setting quarterback since his days here at BC.
You know, Flutie in his CFL career established a single-season record last year of 48 touchdown passes. This year, before being injured, he had thrown 16. Jeff Garcia, since taking over, has thrown 21. So the combined totals of the 2 Calgary quarterbacks this year could possibly eclipse the 48 Flutie threw last year.
Yeah, but Jeff Garcia is going to have to get on track if he wants to bring down that record, because he's had a tough afternoon, and he just hasn't showed the poise today that he had been showing in his 6 previous starts. And the BC Lions, you really have to like what they're doing. It was a must-win situation for them. The game is not over yet, but they're doing all that they can to try to win this one.
10:33 remaining in the 3rd quarter. 20-14, the Lions lead it. Thomas on the kickoff return. And he's forced out of bounds by Dondre Owens. Raymond Biggs was also over there, and there is a penalty flag.
Well, you often get those flags when you get a player running from sideline to sideline, because you set up so many players in awkward positions trying to get blocks for you.
That will negate an 18-yard return, a holding call against Calgary, or against BC.
Legal block, BC, number 7, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Thomas several times has been attempting to set up the return to the right, but hasn't had any success so far. Danny McManus, 2 touchdown tosses today, 1 interception, the first of the season by Alondra Johnson, and now operates from back at his own 20-yard line. To the left come Gordon and Trevathan. Philpott out of the backfield as well. The pass for Trevathan, and Trevathan makes the catch. No, they ruled no catch as he came down. He lost control of the ball. So it will be 2nd and 10, BC. Gordon, the favorite target of Danny McManus, and he also has 2 touchdown catches today. Trevathan with a big catch that set up the 2nd touchdown throw, a reception for 44 yards.
And what McManus has done by spreading the ball around, it hasn't given Calgary's defense an opportunity to key on one receiver.
Almost picked off. McManus was looking for Clark, and Gerald Vaughn had moved over into the coverage, got a hand on it, but couldn't pull it in.
Excellent coverage by Vaughn on the back end, running a zone coverage as Clark came underneath. Vaughn was able to jump the route from the top and make a break on the ball, and almost came up with the big interception.
Jordan was over helping Vaughn defend against Clark, and the Stampeders are going to get it back again in good field position. Pasaglia's last 2 punts, 29 and 30 yards. This is much better. Coleman from the 40. Now he reverses and heads the other way. Newby is after him, and Newby manages to persevere, and with some help makes the tackle. That time a 49-yard punt by Lou Pasaglia, but 19 yards on the return for Calgary. This is the way the scoring went in the game. After Calgary opened with a single, Pasaglia kicked an 11-yard field goal. Then the leading scorer all time in the CFL followed up with a 44-yarder. A 7-yard reception had Calgary in front 8-6. But the Lions came back with a couple of touchdowns by Robert Gordon. One from 34 yards out after a 32-yard field goal by McLaughlin. Gordon put it in the end zone from 18 yards away. Alan Pitts on the far side of the field. He's got a first down. That's going to be interesting next Saturday at Taylor Field in Regina when Calgary plays Saskatchewan. Alan Pitts, Dave Sapunjas, and Donald Narcisse, all three possibly going over 100 catches in that game.
History in the CFL, and not a more poignant place for it to occur than Taylor Field, home of the 1995 Grey Cup. To have those three receivers all on the same field at the same day, just an outstanding season had by all three.
First and 10. The ball is at the 39 of the Lions. 8:50 remaining in the third quarter. Hand off to Tony Stewart, and Stewart was caught and brought down by Tom Europe.
You know, back to that pass to Alan Pitts, when you're struggling as a young quarterback and you have a couple of great receivers on your team, such as Pitts and Sapunjas, those are your go-to guys. We saw it 2 days ago in Saskatchewan where they forgot to go to Ray Elgard. Warren Jones just did not find his big receiver other than once in the game, and it possibly cost them down the stretch.
Well, I think we'll see Garcia look for his big receivers right now. Sapunjas, oh, he can't hang on. Robert Davis managed to get a hand on him. He was trying to cash in with Dave Sapunjas down at the 5-yard line, but a good defensive effort by Robert Davis.
And that's what we've seen consistently all afternoon from the BC Lions. Great individual efforts as Robert Davis at the last moment stretched out and was able to deflect the ball away. But that's what the BC Lions has brought consistency from their defense this afternoon.
Mark McLaughlin will attempt another field goal, this time from 45 yards away. He was saying that inside the dome, 45 to 50 yards is just about the maximum. No problems with this one. He could have kicked that one from about 52 or 53 yards out. And now it's a 3-point game. In some parts of the country, people looking in on the CBC television network this afternoon have already enjoyed their Thanksgiving dinner. And we've got a Thanksgiving Day doubleheader coming your way. Immediately following this game, we'll be going to Skydome in Toronto, where the Argonauts take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We still have 7:38 remaining in the third quarter here at BC Place Stadium. It's a 3-point game, the BC Lions leading the Stampeders. Philpott drives out to the 42-yard line and has a pickup of 7 yards. Wally Buono was saying that coming from behind in the 2 games against Winnipeg and Toronto gave him a good feeling because his team learned how to develop all aspects of their game in those come-from-behind efforts against the Bombers and the Argos.
Well, I think what people remember the Calgary Stampeders most for the past 2 seasons is not achieving the goal of making it to the Grey Cup, even with the great seasons that they've had, and that's one of the things. They couldn't come from behind in the playoff games.
Philpott along the sidelines with Jordan defending against him, and there's a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. That's twice that McManus has tried to go deep down the sidelines to Corey Philpott. Once he had a linebacker defending against him.
BC number 59, decline. 3rd down.
The holding call against Todd Furtick is declined by the Stampeders.
Back to that point about Coach Buono, he's talked about the dedication that his players have made this year also as far as extending the extra effort after practice, before practice, coming in, doing extra film work, extra conditioning, and also staying out after practice to put in some extra reps on their own. And that's how you become winners. You do the little bit the little things that make you better.
Bisaglia, problems with the snap, gets it and kicks the ball away and gets away a decent kick. And there's no chance for a return as it goes out of bounds at the 35-yard line. I don't know whether anything else was designed on the play, but Bisaglia had problems handling this exchange from center.
Well, it was a good snap. It hit him in a bad spot, right in the palm of his hands, but the alertness of Lou Bisaglia, who has probably seen this situation several times over his career, pulled the ball down, got out of the line of the rush, and kicked it down the field. Offensive quarterback coach for the BC Lions, Terry Shea, is the quarterback coach who recruited Jeff Garcia to San Jose State. We'll touch on that after this play.
And Garcia now is 1st and 10. The hitch screen to Vaughn, and moving up is Eddie Thomas. Now Vaughn is going to throw. Pitts makes the catch. A little razzle-dazzle by the Calgary Stampeders as they threw the hitch screen to Terry Vaughn, who has scored the lone touchdown of the game. And he fires 34 yards to Alan Pitts.
When your normal offense hasn't been working, sometime you got to come up with a little bit of razzle-dazzle. Terry Vaughn, that was all effort on his behalf. It was a bad throw to him. The pursuit was there from the BC defense, but Alan Pitts recognized that the young, small receiver was in trouble and came back and made the reception.
34 yards now from the shotgun. Pitts again makes the catch. Close to another first down. Eddie Thomas was there on the tackle.
Nice catch once again by Pitts. But to go back to that story on quarterback coach Terry Shea of the BC Lions, who recruited Jeff Garcia at San Jose, saw a lot of things in this young man back then that he liked. He brought Garcia in. He was only able to spend one season with him at San Jose State prior to moving off to Stanford University. But he saw that the young kid had a lot of makings and potential for years to come, and it has led him here to the CFL.
Well, we talked about Garcia probably going more in this second half to his two big weapons, Sapunjas and Pitts. He tried to put it in the end zone in the hands of Sapunjas. That didn't work. But on this last drive, he twice has found Alan Pitts, actually one pass thrown by Terry Vaughn.
You know, he worked with Terry Shea in college, and he's worked with John Huffnagel since being here with the Calgary Stampeders.
Second and short. And the quarterback keeps for a first down.
Gonna be very close. They might ask for a measurement on this. But since being here with the Calgary Stampeders, Jeff Garcia, for the first time since high school, has had the same head coach for 2 years in succession. Each year in college, when he was at Gavilan Junior College, his dad was his head coach as a freshman. At San Jose State, he had 3 different head coaches. Since being here with the Calgary Stampeders under Wally Buono, this is the first time since high school that he's had the same head coach for the same 2 years, and you can see that that has led to a lot of success that he's had here in his second season with the Stampeders becoming their starter.
Well, I prematurely suggested that it was a first down. It is about 6 inches shy of a first down, and the Stampeders are going after it on third down. What defensive scheme has Gene Gaines come up with to try and stop the Calgary Stampeders?
Well, this is when your big horses up front got to earn their pay. They got to pick up the hand.
And they did, as Garcia keeps and gets to the 30-yard line. It's that yard off the line of scrimmage. It's pretty difficult in the CFL on a play that short to stop him.
It's almost a given. And when you look at the surge of those guys up front, you got Pangelitis, Kreisel probably one of the top 2 or 3 centers in the entire CFL. Romano, who was runner-up last year for Shinley, as outstanding offensive lineman. Chronopoulos came over from BC, and Bruce Beaton has found that new confidence out at left offensive tackle.
First and 10 from the 30-yard line. For Alan Pitts, he got one hand on it, but what a block Tony Stewart put on David Benefield. Whoa, JT straightened him up.
Hey, that will clean your sinuses every time. I mean, he's going to have to go back and check to see if he has some feelings loose on that play. Watch Tony Stewart. We've always talked about the ability he has as a pass receiver and a run blocker. We're going to get Alan Pitts on this one, working against Eddie Thomas down the field. But Tony Stewart went up and just actually leveled David Benefield. He put that helmet under the chin, and he's still reeling from that blow.
2nd and 10 from the 30-yard line. Sapunjas down at the 3, makes the catch, and puts the Stampeders in a 1st and goal situation.
You talked about you have to go to your go-to guys. Tyrone Chapman that time putting the pressure on Garcia, but Dave Sapunjas had to slow down and make the adjustment as Davis was right in his hip pocket. But Sapunjas, a great-handed possession receiver, was a running back in college at Western Ontario, so he knows how to gauge himself when he's running a route.
From the 2, it will be 1st and goal for the Stampeders. They trail by 3 points. Sapunjas now has 99 receptions on the season.
And they're going with that full house backfield with Daniels, Pope, and Stewart.
Hand off to Stewart. He did not get in.
He didn't get in, but Tommy, you're probably the hardest hitting free safety in the CFL out of Bishop's University. Watch as Europe comes up and just levels Stewart right at the goal line and denies the Calgary running back into the end zone for the score. Great shot by Europe. You got to admire the hustle by this BC defense.
Europe is one of the premier safeties in the league as far as hitting ability is concerned, and I think Tony Stewart will attest to that. Second and goal from the 1. Garcia keeps. He didn't get in. Garcia last week against Toronto was able to sneak into the end zone twice. The Stampeder offensive lineman thought he had broken the plane, but the BC Lions,
Calgary did something
they stopped him without any question.
They did something out of the ordinary. On 2nd and 1, they brought in their normal pass scheme offense. They brought the 4 wide receivers back on the field. They took the heavy formation out with the extra offensive lineman and linebacker in the backfield, and then tried to sneak it and didn't make it.
Now, does this surprise you that they're going to go for the field goal?
I'm shocked. I mean, you might want to look for a fake, but McLaughlin can get it from the severe angle.
And this football game is tied at 20 with 1:51 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Well, it's overcast and raining in Vancouver as we welcome you back to BC Place Stadium, where the Lions and the Stampeders are deadlocked at 20 with 1:51 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
Right in the middle here. Watch Doug Peterson from his nose guard position as he gets that surge right into the middle of the backfield and knocks Garcia off his feet. A great job has been done by this BC defensive front this afternoon, but Peterson was the man with the charge. Make that Chater 74 was the man with the charge to get the stop on Garcia.
And then he got some help from Brian Ford, who came over to the top. Pass is deflected. It was intended for Trevathan. Floyd may have got his hand on the throw.
You know, Calgary has worked its way back into this game. BC was leading 20-11 at halftime, and you spoke about Gonzalo Floyd getting a tip on the pass, and they've been very anxious to see what this young man can do from the defensive line position, a rookie out at University of Texas of El Paso, and he's replaced Kenny Walker in that defensive front.
He made his debut a couple of weeks ago in Winnipeg against the Blue Bombers. The pass complete to Philpott, but Philpott is caught immediately and brought down well short of a first down by McClanahan. And in this 3rd quarter, the Lions have yet to pick up a first down.
Well, McClanahan has been a very pleasant surprise for the Calgary Stampeders, one of the new starters in their defensive core. What it allowed when they brought McClanahan in was to move Pope to the defensive line position to be able to put some more speed in that defensive front and also add more speed into that linebacking core.
A couple of adjustments as the result of McClanahan joining the team. Matt Finlay moved into the middle to direct their defensive scheme. Coleman takes the ball at the 40-yard line. penalty flag comes down as Quarles makes the tackle up at the 49. 48 seconds remaining in the third quarter in a 20-20 football game, and I'm still a little surprised that Calgary did not try and put it in the end zone on 3rd and goal from the 1.
Well, I think both of us are in that same position because you had driven all the way down the field, and you don't get many opportunities in a football game to be in the red zone, and it seemed like Calgary's offense.
Calgary number 14, 15-yard penalty. First down, Calgary.
It seemed like Calgary's offense at that point was starting to gain its stride and marching down the field. A couple of nice passes to Sapunjas and Pitts to get down to that position, but on second down they changed up and went with their passing scheme over their running game and had to settle for the field goal.
And now the Stampeders are back at their own 29-yard line following the penalty on the return against Dondre Owens. Movement at the line of scrimmage. Brian Ford appeared to jump prematurely, but was a procedure against the Stampeders.
Bobby Pangelitis, the right offensive guard, number 69, jumped out of his stance prematurely.
Legal procedure. Calgary number 69, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Bobby Pangelitis moving prematurely. Big man, 6'2", 290 pounds, played college football at Eastern Michigan. First and 15. Alan Pitts on the receiving end of the throw, and he'll get back about 10 yards.
What Garcia has started doing now is working the middle of the field where he was trying to work to his wideouts. We got 5 seconds to go here in the third, but when you're working to the inside, you have the defense has more of a tendency to clump in the middle of the field. Then things will open up to Vaughn and Smith on the outside.
Pitts with his 4th reception of the game, 98th for the season. 3 receivers wide to the left. Ford coming on the blitz. The pass is complete. And Danielson will bring it up to the 49-yard line and a Calgary first down on what is the final play of the third quarter here at BC Place Stadium, with these two teams deadlocked at 20. Dave Chaders operates a snow removal company in Ottawa in the offseason. On the last play, it looked as though he was trying to separate Jeff Garcia from his vocal cords.
Well, as any good defensive lineman would like to do is greet any quarterback, and BC's defensive line has had a stranglehold on Calgary's offense all afternoon, and Chaders is just giving Jeff Garcia a greeting there, but the catch by Danielson at the end of that play to pick up the first down, great effort. As we see Glenn Scribner with the neck problem, possibly a burner, and that's what you get when you put the ice pack up there. Defensive linemen frequently get those.
An extra defensive back in now on first and 10 from the 49. The handoff to Stewart. Stewart being pursued by Benefield, and with help from Newby, they make the tackle. Through 3 quarters of play, these teams are deadlocked at 20. And the statistics are also very close. The Stampeders with 12 first downs. BC with an edge in passing. And also with a 22-yard advantage in net yards.
Well, Calgary basically controlled the third quarter, getting back into this game. They were trailing 20-11 at halftime. And they've drawn dead even to start the fourth.
Garcia over the middle to Sapunjas. That's his 100th catch of the season, and it provides the Stampeders with a first down.
And that's what Jeff has started to do, is to go back to his sure-handed guys, Pitts and Sapunjas. You can always count on these 2 receivers getting you into good field position, as Davis was trying to cover him man, but he broke it off into the zone, and he switched to Collier. Picked up the first down, but now Calgary has this BC defense that had played so outstanding for the first half, entering the fourth quarter, playing on their heels.
Garcia couldn't get the ball into the hands of Sapunjas in the first half, but he has been a favorite target in this second half. Garcia is going to run. He saw the opening, and he'll get the first down. Takes a hit from Newby as he goes out of bounds. Something that Garcia was doing against Toronto, running the ball a lot, but the Argos were dropping 8 and 9 men back into coverage, and that's why he ran, and he saw the same situation here.
Well, they ran off in a zone, but what happened was the defenders turned their backs on the quarterback, and he pulled it and ran early. He recognized that he could possibly pick up 8 to 10 yards, and he was fortunate to pick up the first down, but Coach Buono does not like it when he's running out of bounds on his feet. He wants him to just slide, and if he has to go for it on short and second and short.
Incomplete. Over the middle, he was looking for Sapunjas. In the passing scheme of the Stampeders, something that Doug Flutie has always had is inside receivers in his face as he's getting set to throw, and that's the same concept the Stampeder offense operates under with Garcia at the controls, a scheme devised by John Huffnick.
Well, what they have done is that they've designed their offense to bring in personnel to fit their offense. They don't try to make adaptations outside of the scheme. If you're not the type of player who can mold into the scheme of things, they're not going to bring you in, and that's why they've had so much success.
4 receivers this time, line up to the left. 2nd and 10. Garcia throws to the lone man on the right, Alan Pitts. He'll be very close to a first down, brought down there by Eddie Thomas.
You know, to get back to that point, when you look at the makeup of the players on the Calgary Stampeders roster and such great individuals you have, and everyone will allude to Flutie, Pitts, and Sapunjas, that passing and receiving core. But when you look at the #1 draft picks along the front line that they have blocking for those great players, and Tony Stewart has been a 1,000-yard rusher. They all understand what their role is within the scheme of this team, and that's what has made Calgary the most successful team in the CFL over the past 4 seasons.
And Garcia, as you take a look at those statistics, obviously has made some second-half adjustments. 4 receivers to the left on this first down play. Quarterback draw! Touchdown! There was no doubt about that one as Garcia went scampering up the middle for the major score.
And what Garcia recognized, watch Chapman here and Scribner come outside. Chapman is going to run out. It's going to open up. He's right up the middle, and touchdown is the result for BC. Crysdale goes out and puts a great block on Chapman, who has had an outstanding game at his center position for Calgary. Jeff Garcia once again puts his team in the lead in the 4th quarter with a run.
Number 7, Black, puts the hit on number 7, White, at the goal line, but Calgary has the touchdown from Jeff Garcia, and with the point after, Stampeders lead it by 7. Well, now that he's found his way into the end zone, Jeff Garcia obviously likes getting there. 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago against Winnipeg, 2 touchdowns last week against Toronto.
But Jamie Crysdale, the center, was the key to this play. He was able to get out on Tyrone Chapman, who Coach Ritchie had some concerns about his play over the past couple of weeks. But when you're up against a 6'5", 295-pound offensive center who can run, you don't stand much of a chance as a linebacker.
And Garcia has displayed over the past few weeks that he certainly has some quick feet. He can run. Thomas on the return. Brings it back to the 42-yard line. Forced out of bounds by Jackie Kellogg. 21 yards on the run back by Eddie Thomas. He runs a long way to pick up yardage on a punt return and a kickoff return.
You know, people have looked at the Calgary starters over the past couple of years. This season, Calgary has 11 new starters in their lineup, and that's a tribute to Coach Buono and his coaching staff, because they brought these players in. They fit into the scheme that Calgary plays offensively and defensively. They don't concern themselves about individualism. They want to win as a team.
Well, when Bruce Covington went down, they thought that was a huge blow. The gap filled by Bruce Beaton. And, of course, when Doug Flutie went down, everyone was forecasting doom and gloom, And Jeff Garcia stepped in. He's doing some defensive stats. The big tuna, Bruce Covington, for the Calgary Stampeders. Yesterday, he went fishing, looking for some salmon.
Well,
he got shut out.
He can consume a lot. You know, he also went under shoulder surgery this season for the Calgary Stampeders. They had to reconstruct his right shoulder, and he is still not able to work out. He says he's about 2 months away from his conditioning program to get that shoulder back in shape for next season.
Marvin Pope tripped up Ryan Hansen in the backfield, and the Lions will be forced to kick it away again. The Lions dominated the second quarter. The Stampeders have owned the second half.
Well, you know, we talked about all the changes that Calgary have made this year in their starting lineups. There's a player that they added a couple of weeks ago, Tyrone Williams out of Western Ontario, who spent 2 seasons down with the Dallas Cowboys, one with the Bears and the Bills. In between both of those teams, has 2 Super Bowl rings, and he still cannot break into this receiving core that Calgary has.
He will come in as a 5th receiver on occasion. There's some talent in the Calgary receiving corps. Coleman, the man trying to return this Lou Fasaglia punt, and he brings it back to the 34-yard line with 10:16 remaining in the football game. A 47-yard punt, just 14 yards on the return.
And one other point on that, Don. Coach Buono stated that, you know, they'll bring in a young Canadian player and spend a year with him on the practice roster, and he knows that once practice is over is that he's going to have to go out and spend another 10 to 15 minutes after practice taking individual reps one-on-one against some of the starters, so that if and by chance his time does come along where he's going to be inserted into the starting lineup, he'll be ready to play because he's been practicing against some of the best every day of the week.
Jay McNeil was a player he talked about, using him as an example. Here's Garcia drilling the pass in for a first down to Danielson at the 50-yard line. They really like to use their inside receivers. Danielson, who comes in as an inside receiver in an obvious passing situation for Calgary. Pitts and Sapunjas have caught passes for about 3,400 yards this season. Stewart picks up about 5 to the midfield stripe. And you think Danielson enjoys performing here at BC Place Stadium?
Well, you know, you talk about Danielson, you talk about Pitts and Sapunjas, but Danielson played here at UBC for 5 seasons. His first 4 years in college, he was a quarterback. In his 5th year, understanding the chances of a Canadian quarterback playing in the CFL, he moved to the receiver position where he became Calgary's #1 draft pick.
Here comes the blitz. Pass is complete, but it's going to be short of a first down, it would appear.
Actually, Don, he ran himself out of a first down. Pee Wee Smith had the first down when he made the reception, but in coming back to his quarterback, he lost 3 yards after making the reception.
Garcia was under pressure. Chapman coming on the blitz. Pitts came back and lost yards. Smith, I should say, came back and lost yards at the 52-yard line. First time they've thrown to Pitts to Smith this afternoon. .8:25 remaining in the football game. 27-20, Calgary leads. Thomas takes Martino's kick at the 5. This time he tried to go straight ahead, and he's brought down up at the 13-yard line.
Once they've gotten the lead, they can start to smell that blood like a wild animal out on the hunt, and they're tracking down Danny McManus.
Matt Clark lines up wide right. McManus for Trevathan. He led him just a little too much. Kellogg and Knox were both over defending.
Well, Ian Sinclair, who is the leader of that offensive front, a member of 2 Grey Cup champion teams here in BC with a high snap in the shotgun. McManus had to track it down. But Sinclair, out of Miami, 11 years here in BC, a steady enforce up front.
7:05 remaining. 2nd and 10. The Lions are at their own 25-yard line, trailing by 7 points. McManus was looking for Philpott, and Anthony McClanahan moved over to defend against him.
You can see a difference in the level of intensity of this Calgary defense here in the second half. They've really picked up their play. They're flying around. They're hitting people. McClanahan getting there just as the ball arrives with Philpott breaking up that pass, but the defense now has taken BC's offense momentum away from them.
Well, they may have been surprised by some of the offensive sets of the BC Lions in the first half, but they have certainly made adjustments in this second half. Pisaglia again takes Coleman takes Pisaglia's 3rd down punt on the run and gets back to the 53-yard line with 6:36 remaining in the football game. A 34-yard punt, 5 yards on the return. Jamie Crysdale playing center for the Calgary Stampeders. He's been the stalwart along the offensive line this season.
He was the one who led Garcia into the end zone on that last touchdown, going out getting that key block on Tyrone Chapman at linebacker. He makes all the offensive calls at the line of scrimmage, all the blocking scheme adjustments for Calgary.
4 receivers to the left. Garcia's pass to the other side to Vaughn. Vaughn scored the first touchdown for Calgary in this game, and he gets to the 11-yard line. A 42-yard pickup, Garcia to Terry Vaughn.
You know, the key is the yak, the yards after the catch, and that's what Terry Vaughn did on that play. It was just a simple short route by Garcia, but the explosiveness of a Vaughn after making the reception, eluding tacklers downfield, getting down to the 12-yard line. Calgary right now can feel it that they have BC set up for the kill.
Well, the Lions were so dominant in the second quarter of this football game, but in the second half, it's been all Calgary. Penalty flag on the play, and I think this is going to be a time count violation. And there's another penalty flag as one of the Calgary offensive linemen got dumped.
They're going to call an unnecessary roughness personal foul on BC that is going to march half the distance to the goal. And once again, a foolish mistake by the Lion defenders.
It looked as though Andrew Stewart may be the guilty party.
Bobby Pangelitis was the lineman that was hit while he was down in his stance. And BC had picked.
Time count violation. Calgary, number 7, unnecessary roughness. BC, number 73, a saw off of 10 yards, half the distance to the goal line, 1st down Calgary.
Stupid penalties is something Dave Ritchie has talked about during the course of the season, and that one certainly qualifies.
Well, when your team is having trouble defensively, and when you play such a high-powered offense in Calgary, you cannot afford to give them extra plays and extra yardage, and that's what BC's defense has done after playing a great first half of football.
4 receivers left. Garcia out of the shotgun. Into the far corner, incomplete, intended for a Pitts, and Eddie Thomas was there defending.
Eddie Thomas the past couple of weeks has played as well as any defensive back in the CFL. He had an exceptional game last week in Edmonton, and when you can match up against Alan Pitts and defend the big slot back for Calgary like that, man for man, you have to give him kudos, and that time Eddie Thomas did a fine job.
And I think that's probably the coverage that the Stampeders were looking for, trying to get Pitts one-on-one against a defensive back. Most times he'll win. Into the end zone, touchdown, Danielson. The BC product scoring the major at home at BC Place Stadium.
had talked about earlier Danielson being a converted quarterback for his first 4 years at UBC, playing quarterback, converting to a slot in his 5th season, being Calgary's #1 draft pick. What that does is gives him an advantage in reading defensive coverage from playing quarterback for 4 years. That time did a fine job recognizing the zone coverage, found that soft spot, set down, gave his quarterback a target, touchdown, the results for the Calgary Stampeders.
Mark McLaughlin with the point after. And the Stampeders have taken a 14-point lead with 4:53 remaining. Vince Danielson on the receiving end of the Jeff Garcia throw. And in 3 plays, the Lions moved 53 yards. They were helped out by the Stampeders moved, and they were helped out by Lion penalties.
Well, penalties have been a telling story for the BC Lions here in the second half, even in the first half, but defensively they were able to overcome them. The game plan of Coach Gene Gaines, but Andrew Stewart, we spoke about him in the opening that he needed to have an outstanding game today, and the penalty has really put a wrinkle in the effort that the defense has had this afternoon.
32,907 were pretty excited here at BC Place Stadium after 30 minutes of play when the Lions led by 9. But in the second half, the Stampeders have dominated. Eddie Thomas on the return. And tracked down by Tyrone Williams. You talked about Tyrone Williams and how he has to make an impact with the Stampeders on special teams. I think Wally Buono will be pretty happy with the job he did in making the tackle on Eddie Thomas on the kick return.
Well, you can see the congratulations that he's getting from his teammates, and this is a team that you have to earn respect internally from, and that's how the Calgary Stampeders gauge each other, is how your individual performances are on, and your teammates will let you know if you're doing the proper job.
McManus over the middle, and Trevathan will have a first down at the 45, brought down there by Jackie Kellogg.
Jackie Kellogg has made an impressive debut here at BC Place, coming into this dime formation, and he's been able to cover these BC receivers pretty good this afternoon. And once again, Matt Finley from his middle linebacker position giving help.
Pass was intended for Robert Gordon, and Kellogg was there defending against him.
Jackie Kellogg had talked about him coming in midway just a couple of weeks ago. Really, he had been sitting at home doing nothing. We saw the same situation with Robert Mims 2 days ago in BC, where he was, well, in Baltimore, where he had been sitting home in Arizona. Kellogg had a lot of people to work with, the likes of Jerry Rice, John Taylor, while he was in the camp of San Francisco. So he has the skills to cover someone one-on-one.
McManus is intercepted. The safety, Greg Knox, comes up with the theft, brings the ball back to the 41, and that should just about do it as far as the hopes of the BC Lions are concerned.
You know, that's one of the things that have plagued the BC Lions all year, is turnovers and penalties. The 22nd interception this season thrown by Danny McManus. Greg Knox, an all-Canadian safety last season for Calgary, gets his 4th interception of the season, but playing center field, and you know when you have a team in a desperate situation, trailing by 14, they have to throw the ball, and he was trying to go into the middle once too often. Will Johnson delivering a blow to quarterback Danny McManus. He's taken too many of those hits in the second half.
Garcia took some hits in the first half, but he's had pretty good protection in the second. Touchdown to Vaughn, his second of the game.
And Calgary didn't waste any time going for the juggler. Terry Vaughn once again up top for his second score of the afternoon.
And the first man racing downfield to congratulate him, the quarterback. 2 touchdowns today for Terry Vaughn.
It's amazing, though, that Garcia was able to run downfield as quick as he did. The blow that he took after delivering that strike to Vaughn from that BC defensive front, they're still coming after him, but he stayed in the pocket, spotted his open receiver downfield and delivered a perfect strike.
Jeff Garcia's friends and family may have been wondering about the young man in the first half of this football game. They're in attendance here at BC Place Stadium, but there has been little doubt about his ability to throw the football in this second half, and he's put 2 touchdowns into the hands of Terry Vaughn. This is the second time this season that Terry Vaughn has gone over 100 yards in a game. The last time was August the 6th against Baltimore. He had 6 catches for 127 yards, but didn't score a touchdown. Today, James, he's got 2.
He's got 2, but what was most impressive was the toughness of Jeff Garcia to hang in the pocket and take the shot of the on-rushing BC defense.
Tyrone Chapman takes the kickoff on the return back to the 48-yard line. 2:46 remains.
Now get a 28-point winter inspection, oil, lube, and filter, tire rotation, and a 4-liter jug of washer fluid, all for just $24.99, only at Canadian Tire.
James, you talked earlier about Calgary going for the jugular on a turnover. They've scored 14 points in this football game on BC turnovers.
Don, and they also scored a touchdown in the first half off of a BC turnover when Vaughn caught his first touchdown pass, Alondra Johnson with his first interception of the season, and they didn't waste any time of getting that one into the end zone.
The out pattern to Robert Gordon as Danny McManus now watches from the sidelines.
And he's had a rough past month here with the BC Lions. He has taken a beating. His body has been beaten up. Legs, his shoulder, his hand. He's had a tough go, and the BC Lions are 1-5 in their last 6 games. They really have to do some soul searching and try to fix the problem, because going into the playoffs, you don't want to go into the playoffs going through the back door.
Julio Caravata in at quarterback, taking over from Danny McManus in this 4th quarter. Caravata out of SFU, looking for Clark, and he was throwing into traffic. Al Jordan, along with Johnson and Knox, all over defending against Clark.
Well, there's no question about Caravata's arm strength, but the question is, how well does he recognize defenses? He came in late in the Edmonton loss here at BC Place and passed for over 100 yards in that game late in the 4th quarter in a mop-up role, but playing against this Calgary defense, the 2nd best in the league.
And he had difficulties with the exchange from center, gets it back, throws deep, incomplete. It was intended for Robert Gordon. Caravata operating from the shotgun, couldn't handle the snap from center.
Well, it's tough when you throw a young quarterback in this type of situation. You got the Calgary defense like wolves, hungry wolves over there licking their chops because they see that fresh meat, and they're going to pin their ears back, and they're going to play man-to-man in the back end, hoping that he throws it up and a defensive back can get a jump on the football.
2:01 is the time remaining. 30 points in the second half by the Calgary Stampeders. A 3rd and 10 gamble by the Lions as Caravata continues to operate from the shotgun. And he completes the pass over on the far side of the field to Yoel Murphy, and that should be a first down at the 39-yard line.
He just picked it up, Don, by a half a yard. A nice strike by Caravata. He has the arm to get it out there. It's just a matter he needs more reps. And that's one of the problems you have when you primarily only play one quarterback, is that your 2nd and 3rd string quarterbacks don't get the actual game reps that they need to be prepared.
Again, a high snap, and Caravata is throwing deep down the sidelines. Phil Platt has got it. Caravata to Phil Platt for the major score.
What a tremendous pass by Caravata, the backup quarterback for BC. And he just wings this one out there. Philpott runs under, talked about the tremendous speed of a Corey Philpott. He goes up over Coleman's back and makes a miraculous reception for the touchdown.
Well, Lou Pasaglia comes into the football game to add the extra point.
Don, we're in the CFL. Stranger things have happened. This game is not over.
And Pasaglia makes it a 41-27 football game. Julio Caravata coming in to take over from starter Danny McManus with the touchdown strike to Corey Philpott, and there's a penalty flag on the play.
And that's his first touchdown pass of the season. Last week he was 7 for 13 for 105. Make that 2 weeks ago against Edmonton, but coming out 6 plays, 45 yards in 1 minute and 3 seconds. There's still plenty of time left on the clock, but Corey Philpott, you talked about it earlier, he even questioned whether he would be able to catch a football when he joined the BC Lions 3 seasons ago. But he has worked on his hands during the off seasons, really improved his pass catching abilities, and now they don't mind going to him at any point in the ball game, and he came up with the big touchdown with 1:49 to go.
A 14-point football game, 1:49 remaining. Gene Gaines talking to Lou Pasaglia and the kickoff unit. Now Caravata has handled the kickoff chores previously in this football game, but I think Pasaglia is probably a little more skilled on a short kickoff, which it appears the Lions will attempt.
Well, Lou has been so adept over the years to that pooch kick where he wants to loft it up and allow the coverage team to run down and possibly just bat it out of bounds. They were so successful with that kick years ago when Don Matthews was the head coach here in BC. He often did that on kickoffs. Let's look for that right here with Pasaglia.
Talking about Don Matthews, in 2 weeks, the Baltimore Stallions will be the opponent at Memorial Stadium for the BC Lions. There's the kick, the high kick to the sidelines. Alan Pitts let it go, and it was picked up and taken out of bounds. Pitts initially was going to grab it, and then I think Pee Wee Smith called him off.
Don, you've been around here with CBC Sports for many years, and I just want to congratulate you here on your birthday, the Dean of Sports for CBC. It's been an honor and pleasure working with you for the past 3 years, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Where are the presents? Isn't that what I'm supposed to say?
You got that earlier. You got that early.
Well, thank you very much. You guys are always full of surprises. Never quite know what to expect.
Let's put it on.
No, don't try that, please. Well, you caught me by surprise, I have to admit, James.
Well, you know, you've deserved it, Don. You've been around for a long time, well recognized throughout Canada as the voice of Canadian sports, and like I said, it's been a pure pleasure working with you.
Well, James, we've had some fun over the last few weeks with some very entertaining football games. A beauty last Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton involving these same BC Lions. They lost 39-36 in overtime.
Well, the game 2 days ago.
And at this time, we say hello to viewers on the West Coast who are joining us from BC Place Stadium. In 1:48, we'll be switching to Skydome in Toronto in the second half of our Thanksgiving Day doubleheader as the Argos entertain the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We talked about the two tremendously exciting games the last couple of weeks on CBC television. The second game that was so laden with drama took place at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore Saturday with the Stallions defeating Saskatchewan 29-27. And what a crowd they're expecting at Taylor Field in Regina on Saturday when Jeff Garcia and the Calgary Stampeders come to town. They're hoping to sell out all the seats that have been added for Grey Cup Sunday.
And that's going to be probably the biggest Grey Cup ever held in Canada. Saskatchewan has opened its arms for Canada to host the Grey Cup and show the world that they can put it on.
Tony Stewart bounces to the outside and picks up a first down, taking the ball up to the 53-yard line. It was imperative, I think, that the Lions get the ball on the short kickoff attempt by Lou Pasaglia. They were unsuccessful. James Jefferson being escorted from the Calgary bench by Wally Buono. He's been yapping at the Calgary bench throughout the entire football game.
Well, J.J., if he doesn't get tired from running, he'll always be tired from talking. That's one of the things he'll do for the 60 minutes. But I think the throwback, the turning point in this ball game was the turnovers, and Calgary was able to capitalize on them. 3 times they took the ball away from BC, and 3 times they were able to turn those turnovers into touchdowns. And when you can have an offense that will operate that efficiently, you will always stand a chance of winning a football game.
Can the Calgary Stampeders go 17-1? They've got a home-and-home affair with Saskatchewan next Saturday at Taylor Field. On the 22nd, they entertain the Rough Riders, and then they close out the season on October the 27th at Toronto. The BC Lions play Hamilton, Baltimore, and Saskatchewan in Hamilton and Baltimore the next 2 weekends before closing the season here at BC Place Stadium against the Rough Riders. Vaughn makes the catch. He's already got 2 touchdowns. He takes the ball down to the 36-yard line. And we remind you the second half of our Thanksgiving Day doubleheader. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the Toronto Argonauts. The Bombers trying to break out of a tie for the 5th and final playoff spot in the Northern Division with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The team that finishes in 5th place in the North will go up against the Baltimore Stallions in the first round of the CFL playoffs.
And that will be no easy task. The horse that roars down in Baltimore, they have a fine oil machine down there. Coach Don Matthews has done a great job in building that team in Baltimore. Owner Jim Spiros has provided him with everything that he needed. The city has backed the team, and they've done a fine job in their 2nd season in the CFL.
Well, the road to the Grey Cup in the Northern Division, much to the delight of owner Larry Rickman, will again lead through Calgary. The Stampeders, with a strong second half in which they scored 30 points, will win their 14th of the year to wrap up first place. And Jeff Garcia has been the architect of half of those wins.
I think people now will start to give praise to Coach Buono about how well he has put together his team here in Calgary, personnel, coaching staff, and player-wise.
And Wally Buono continues to hold a mastery over his coaching rival. He has never lost in regular season play to Dave Ritchie of the BC Lions. 41-27, the final score. Steve?
Don, that is an 8th straight win for the Calgary Stampeders in regular season over the BC Lions. The final count, 41-27. The Stampeders record now 14-1. Now we head to Skydome.